1, 2, 3, audio test.
Hi, this is cbradiomagazine.com, and recently I showed you guys the President Richard, which was an export radio, AM/FM, 50 watt PEP, very compact, and it was unique because it mixed traditional CB styling with just a ton of digital features and other stuff built into it. However, it wasn't a type accepted FCC approved CB radio. So today I want to show you guys the Walker II FCC, and I'm going to call this the FCC approved twin of the Richard. It's got pretty much the same layout, but it has that same cool look with a ton of features in it, and it is a legal CB radio, AM 40 channel. President Walker II here, Cobra 29 on the left. This is a fun comparison when I see these, just because these new radios are so compact. They have new school technology, old school technology. And the crazy thing is, everything that's inside this radio is basically inside this one and more. You're getting a ton of features. Cars are smaller nowadays. They don't have as much room for mounting. People are looking for sleeker looking devices, and that's where some of these new school radios really shine. They're really compact and still do everything that the old radios did. This is the back of the President Walker II, and because it shares the same chassis as the President Richard, it ended up with a huge heatsink on here, which is just great for heat dissipation. You're never going to have a problem on this one overheating. Has your antenna connector here. This little guy here is where you can plug in an external Vox microphone, and if you don't know what Vox is, I'll discuss that more. This is your PA speaker jack, and this is your external speaker jack, and of course we have a universal 3-pin connector on the back. And as we mentioned, cool old school styling blended with new school digital display and a ton of features built in. I love the white LED display on the SRF meter. Really easy to read, and I really like that. The digital display, really easy to read as well, nice and big. And feature-wise, we've got a ton of things to go through, but let's just go through the main controls first. This is your USB charging port, just like on the President Richard. 5 volt, 2.1 amp. You can charge your cell phone here. If you don't have a charging port in your car, install this radio, and now you have one as well. Just kind of an added bonus. Has a 6-pin microphone, standard President, and it has this microphone with up-down buttons. This is the standard microphone they've been selling with the Richard, the Walker, the President McKinley, the President Lincoln too. This is a great microphone for these radios. They match this up really, really well. I have to tell you guys, if you have a President Lincoln too, you have a President McKinley, you're like, oh, which aftermarket microphone should I put on there? Don't. Just put the stock microphone unless you really need noise canceling or something else. It matches up great audio. So, and other people will tell you this too. I'm not the only one saying this. Volume on-off switch on the inside here, squelch on the outside, automatic squelch controls all the way down in the lower position. RF power here. It has variable power, guys. You can lower your power down, raise your power up. This is your RF gain on the outside, microphone gain on the inside. This is your channel changing control here. It's also your menu control button if you press it in. We have a weather button here to turn on the weather frequencies, and if I press that, you'll see we go into the weather channels. We've got a CBPA switch, an EMG1 off, and EMG2 switch. We've got a noise blank, ANL, and high cut switch over here. There's a Talkback button as well as a Vox button. So that's kind of your general features, and I'll show you how each one of these works. All right, let's dive into some of the deeper features on this radio. First thing is the weather frequencies. They don't have that on the Richard. There's a mode switch here on the Richard, so this is cool. This has your weather channels, so if you're driving around, want a weather report locally, or you want a weather alert, that's what this is for. So you press the button once, you'll see it shows up here, and you can flip through the different frequencies. Let me turn up the volume here. So you'll see you get your different frequencies in there. So you get 7 choices, which is pretty standard across the United States. And you just use the mode channel knob here to change between them. There's actually also an alert on here. If you hold it in, it goes off, or hold it in and it goes on. And that's a long press. And that will alert you if you're in CB mode, let's say you're talking on channel 19 to somebody and you're driving down the road, and there's a National Weather Service alert. it'll actually sound a siren, and it'll send you over to the weather mode so you can actually hear what the alert is. So if there's tornadoes or tsunamis, I don't know, whatever it is that you're running into for an alert, it'll tell you that. And I've actually had that come on with a radio while I was driving, and there was an alert about a winter storm. So kind of cool when that actually does work and you're using your radio doing CB, and then that pops in there. Okay, I'm going to turn that off. All right, that's off. Next feature over here is your EMG1 and EMG2. Now normally you used to have a channel 9/19 switch, and you can still set that up this way, but you can actually choose the channel that you want. So for example, I chose channel 6 on the upper one, channel 19 on the lower one. So if you have two channels that are like your favorite channels in the world and you just want to be able to flip between those, you can do that, or you can set it to the off position and then use the rotary knob. But yeah, you can just go up, down, and there you go. So that's a neat one. Over here we've got Talkback, and this is a nice feature for a CB radio if you want to hear what you're sounding like as you key through the microphone. So I have the Talkback on. When I press on the push to talk button and I talk, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 audio, and I don't have it turned up very loud. You can push the button in and turn it off, 1, 2, 3, now you have no Talkback, or you can push it to turn it on, and then also you can key up and you can adjust the setting. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We have it set at level 5 there. It goes up from level 1 all the way up to level 9. So if you wanted to hear what you sound like on the air for talkback reasons, or hear what road noise sounded like in the background, Talkback is a good function for that. We're getting a little bit of squealing because we're a little bit close to the radio itself. As you move the microphone farther away, that shouldn't be an issue, or you can turn your Talkback down. Vox. So Vox is a voice-activated feature for keying the radio. When we turn this on, if we bring the microphone close enough, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 audio, you'll see that it automatically started transmitting as I'm talking. I'm not pushing the push to talk button here. I'm only talking into the microphone. It's a voice-activated feature that will activate the radio's transmit, and then you can just talk. So it's kind of like a hands-free feature. In the Vox menu, if you hold it down, you can go in and you can set the different levels for how quickly it turns on when you're talking, how much noise canceling you want, and a number of other things. It's a little bit complicated, so I do recommend reading the manual for it. However, it's a nice feature if you don't want to be pressing the push to talk button. Now, the menu. This is the part where we're going to jump in using the channel knob over here that you normally use for changing your channels. This is our menu knob. So for the menu knob, you just long press it in, and it jumps in, and now we can click through and go through all these features as we turn this. So the first thing is the color. If I press this, I can change the color. There's green, blue, a light blue, kind of a yellowish, purple, a nice light color. I don't know what you call that. It's going back to kind of a red orange color, which I had it on originally. This is a little more red than it shows in the image here. If I press it again, we go out. Next feature is the key beep. Now you hear every time we do something, it's beeping. If that drives you nuts, turn that off. Next feature is a Roger beep. This actually does have a Roger beep built into it. Just a little beep that happens at the end of your transmission to let someone know that you're done talking. We can turn that on or off. There's a tone control. So this can go negative or positive. And what that does is it does lower tones or higher tones. And you can control that. So if you feel like the radio sound's coming through a little too high pitch, you can always lower it, or if you feel like you're not getting the highs coming through on the receive, you can turn it up. The dimmer, of course, you can dim this. It doesn't dim over here. You can see I turned it all the way off basically, and it just dims this display on the right hand side. If we go to the next feature, this is where you would set those channels. So we can set it for channel 6, channel 9 for EMG1, EMG2. We can set it to whatever we want, and that's what's affected over here on this switch. Next feature is SWR. This function, we can test our SWR. When you go into this, you just press the button once, and now it'll check our SWR, and you can see we've got a really good match. So we're at 1.0 because we're going to a dummy load. But for instance, if I switch the switch over here and go to an open switch, you'll see it jumps up to 3.0, so it will let you know right away if you've got a bad match on your antenna. We push that again to go out of that mode. And microphone type. So this would be for the electric microphone that comes with it. It's always hard for me to say that one because it's not electric, it's electret, R-E-T. Oh, and if you go too long, then it goes out of the menu. So we can go into there and we can select for a dynamic microphone if we had that, if we were going to use that as an aftermarket microphone. The PA setting. Now this one, I'm going to go through this again. It's a little complicated. I'll actually pull up the manual here for when I read through this, just so I get it right. It's a neat PA setting on this radio, and the reason that it's neat is because you can have it go through in a couple different ways. First is the LN, which you saw up there, and that means the modulation of the microphone is transmitted to a PA speaker. The received signal is transmitted to the internal speaker in the radio. The other option is OF, and that means only the modulation of the microphone is transmitted to the PA speaker. So that would be like, let's say you're only using this for public announcements or something, that would be that mode for that. You wouldn't be hearing the received through there. And then there's a PA mode, and that's the modulation of the microphone and the received signal are transmitted through the public address loudspeaker. So if you were sitting outside your car and you had a PA speaker outside, you could set it up so that you could hear people, and if you talked through, you could actually go through the PA as well. So that's the three different functions on that. And the last thing is reset. So if you wanted to reset all of the features in here, it resets everything in the radio. So if you had a Vox setting or you had the EMG button set, you would do the reset and it would reset everything on the radio. The President Walker II does have a scan feature, and it's a little different than some other radios. You can hear the static right now. I'll actually just turn it to the automatic squelch control. And the way it works is you hold down the microphone button, either the up or the down, and you'll start holding it down and you'll see the channels flipping, and it's changing, but it's not scanning yet. And then you'll see a little dot appear. When the dot appears, then it is scanning, and then when someone's signal breaks the squelch level, it'll stop on that frequency. So I'll hold it down, you'll see it flying through the channels. It's just changing, it's not scanning. And then all of a sudden that little dot appears and it's flashing. Now it's in the scan function, and if someone breaks the squelch, it'll pop through. And you can click it left or right and have it go, or sorry, click the up down buttons and it'll go up or down on the scanning. I've switched cameras so that I can show you this a little bit better when I turn this back on. One thing I'll tell you real quick. President Lincoln, President McKinley, President Walker, President Richard, all of these newer presidents have a little bit of a noisy receiver. So some people don't like the white noise on these. And what I've found, a little trick, and other people are doing this as well, on the RF gain, if you turn it down just a little bit, it's on the outside knob here, you can cut back some of that hiss without really affecting incoming signals a whole lot. And I definitely would recommend that. It's a little bit easier for listening. So just a little tip there. I do it on all of the different new presidents, and it seems to work pretty well. Next thing is power output on this radio out of the box was about 3.5 watts. And I thought maybe there might be a service menu like there was on the Richard that I discovered. And I was able to find it on this one, kind of using a similar method. What you have to do is you key the microphone, and you hold down the weather button, the talkback button at the same time, and you have to turn on the radio. These switches have to be in this setup, CB off and off. And when you do this, try and do it all, it comes into a service menu. The first thing is your power level, and it says 140. Now I've set this to 140 in here. All radios are different. Don't go off my numbers and say, oh, that's where I should set it. Mine's going to be different than yours possibly. It just depends how it was set up from the factory. That's the reason they have these service menus, is so they can set it where they want it, the factory, to the wattage that matches the radio. This got me to 4 watts, and out of the box, yours might have a different number, might be doing 3.5, 3.7, who knows. If you turn this up on the channel selector, your output goes down. If you turn this down and the number goes lower, your output will go up. Now, the max output I saw was like 5-6 watts out of this, down at 120. Don't crank it, just leave it at 4 watts. You're not going to get any real distance out of it doing more, and it doesn't get you a whole lot of swing or anything else like that. Set it where you can get the legal 4 watts out of it. Now, the next thing I'll show you is that, one more thing I'll mention. When you adjust this power, there's no high-low adjustment. When you adjust this, it affects both the high and low power on your RF power switch here. So it affects both when you change that. This is your audio level, or your AMC modulation. This was set to, around 170 or so. You can turn it up to 190. That is the maximum. You're going to be a little overmodulated from what I looked on the scope here, but that would be maximum if you wanted to be as loud as possible. It goes all the way down to 50. There wasn't really a huge difference between 50 and 190 on the audio on a receiving radio from what I could tell. So there's really no reason to crank it too hard. But anyway, again, if you were going to adjust that, you could turn it up all the way and you're not going to sound hugely overmodulated out of the air, but you did sound a little bit on the scope. So anyway, those are the two settings for that. Just thought I'd share those in case you guys needed to go in there and make those changes. Again, I wouldn't recommend doing that. It's at your own risk. I always tell people to write down numbers before you ever mess with a service menu in case you want to set it back to where the factory had it. And again, this is just from what I can determine. I believe those settings or what I'm telling you about is correct, but don't make any guarantees about that. Make sure you have proper equipment before you do any changes there. So this is the inside of the Walker II FCC radio. Nothing inside for you to mess with. There's no adjustment pots. There's nothing to turn up, nothing to mess with, guys. I've been really impressed with the President line of radios this year. The last couple of years, they've come out with the President Lincoln II, the President Lincoln II Plus, which was a later version, President McKinley, President Richard, and now there's also a handheld coming out, the President Randy. And yeah, President just keeps upping their game, and I've been impressed. These are fun little radios. Again, they're not powerhouses. They're not crazy modulation, machines like some of the Connex and General Lees and stuff like that. These are little compact radios that are fantastic to put in a new car, and you can talk on them, you'll get out, people will hear you, you can turn up the modulation a little bit, nice and clear. That's what they're designed for. So very cool. Hope you enjoyed the video, and we got more coming.